It all started like any other missing persons case, until it did not. What investigators uncovered about Kada Scott has left the entire internet speechless. Just when people thought things could not get darker, the truth began clawing its way to the surface, and what it revealed was horrifying beyond belief. When the first reports came out, everyone assumed King was acting alone, a lone shadow behind an unspeakable crime. But now? Court documents are saying otherwise. Surveillance footage, cold, silent, and undeniable, shows King stepping out of a black stolen car, walking away into the night like nothing happened. But wait, the very next evening, he is back again. This time, he is not alone. Another figure joins him in a gold-colored vehicle, and what happens next will make your skin crawl. The two are seen dragging something heavy, something that would later change everything, to the exact spot where Kada's remains were discovered on October 18. Then, almost as if rehearsed, King returns alone, gets into that same stolen car, and drives away. Moments later, flames. The car is set ablaze, burning so completely that investigators say it destroyed nearly all DNA evidence. Almost like someone wanted the truth to disappear in smoke and ash. And here is where the story takes a sickening turn. Because social media has not stayed silent. Thousands of users have been demanding answers from someone else whose name keeps surfacing, Gabby. Some people are now whispering, if King did not act alone, then who did? TikTok detectives are dissecting Gabby's past, digging up old arrest records, screenshots, and videos that suggest she may not be as innocent as she claims. Twitter, or X, is flooded with posts like, "Why is Gabby not in handcuffs yet?" and "Something about her story just does not add up." And honestly? They might have a point. Because records reveal Gabby has a criminal history eerily similar to King's. The coincidences are stacking up, and the silence from her side is deafening. People want answers. Now, let's rewind to the night everything went wrong. It was October 4th, Kada's mother watched her daughter leave for her evening shift at the nursing home, not knowing it would be the last time she ever saw her alive. Kada did show up to work, but for some reason, she left before finishing her shift. Nobody knew why. The next morning, when she failed to return home, her family reported her missing. But here is what chills investigators to this day. Before her disappearance, Kada told her family and friends that someone had been harassing her through phone calls. That same night, a coworker remembers seeing her visibly upset during a call. The last thing that coworker heard was Kada's trembling voice saying, "I cannot believe you are calling me about this." Moments later, she walked out into the dark parking lot and vanished. As detectives pieced things together, a name kept surfacing, King. Cell phone records showed that Kada had been communicating with him right before she disappeared. Soon, the police released details about King's metallic gold Toyota Camry, hoping the public could help locate it. Hours later, two major tips came in. One led officers to an elementary school, where evidence of value was found. The second tip? It led straight to King's vehicle. What they found inside the home connected to him was equally disturbing: ammunition, contractor bags, gloves, items that pointed to premeditation, not a moment of rage. And finally, the most heart-shattering discovery: Kada's body, buried in a shallow grave behind an abandoned school near the Auberry Arboretum in Germantown. The same area police had already searched before. Which raises a haunting question: was the body moved there later? When asked about how they found the remains, investigators said they acted on a new tip. But no one is saying who gave that tip, or why the scene looked so staged. Now here is where things get sinister. Because King's actions after that night tell a story of guilt. Surveillance shows him leaving the stolen vehicle like a ghost disappearing into darkness. But then, he returns the following night, bringing another person. Together, they are caught carrying a heavy object, later confirmed as the same area Kada was buried. Afterward, King returns to burn the car, erasing every trace he could. But evil always leaves fingerprints. The arson, the evidence, the cell data, it all formed a trail leading straight back to him. And soon, the charges started stacking like dominoes: kidnapping, false imprisonment, stalking, arson, conspiracy, tampering with evidence, receiving stolen property, and even causing a catastrophe. But the internet wants more than legal charges, it wants truth. It wants accountability. Because behind every cold headline, there is a mother still waiting for justice, and a community that cannot forget the horror buried in the shadows of Germantown. And as the case continues to unfold, one question keeps echoing across every comment section, every podcast, every true crime thread: who was the second person that night? Because if King was not acting alone, then someone else out there knows exactly what happened to Kada Scott. And they are still free. October 4th, the night Kada Scott vanished, and the digital trail she left behind reads like the script of a nightmare. According to newly released court documents, Kada received a dozen phone calls between 9:25 p.m. and 10:12 p.m. All from one number. Kings. 12 calls in less than an hour, almost as if he was desperate. Or hunting. And buried in those messages is one that shattered the internet. Kada allegedly texted him, "Kidding me again?" Yes, you heard that right. Those exact words. To which King replied, "Better be up too." The final text exchange came at 10:09 p.m., ending with Kada's message, "Call me when you hear." 3 minutes later, at 10:12 p.m., her phone pinged one last time near the Aubrey Recreation Center, right beside Ada H. Lewis Middle School. Security footage caught their arrival, a gold Toyota Camry, reversing slowly into a parking spot like someone preparing for something they already knew was coming. Then, silence. At exactly 10:24 p.m., Kada's phone went dark. Forever. But the story did not end there. 24 hours later, that same gold Camry, King's car, rolled into the same parking lot once again. This time, 2 people stepped out. 2 shadows in the night. They walked toward the abandoned school and vanished into the darkness. Hours later, those same 2 figures returned, struggling to carry something heavy, wrapped, lifeless. Investigators later confirmed that they moved a heavy object consistent with a human body into the area where Kada's remains were discovered days later, buried in a shallow grave. And here's where the case takes an even darker turn, because no one knows who that second person is. But if you have been anywhere online lately, you already know one name that keeps echoing through every comment section, every TikTok live, every Twitter thread: Gabby. Now, Gabby's story is messy. She claims she barely knew Kada, that she only grew up near her, that they exchanged a handful of words in their entire lives. She says she only knew Key and King because they were friends before all this. But the internet does not buy it. When people demanded to know why she never went to the police after King allegedly called her that night, Gabby took to social media to clear the air. Her post started with, "I want to make something clear. I did not know Kada personally. I knew her little sister. Me and Kada were just neighbors." She explained that King had called her before Kada went missing, asking if she knew the girl. Gabby said yes, but not personally. According to her, the call lasted only 29 seconds. She said she did not report it because he had already turned himself in, and besides, we don't talk to cops around here. And that one line, lit the internet on fire. Comments poured in like a flood. So you just admit you knew and stayed quiet? If you're innocent, why defend yourself so hard? This sounds rehearsed. People smelled guilt. They heard it in her tone, saw it in her eyes during the video she posted shortly after. In that clip, Gabby sat in front of the camera, pale, hair pulled back, voice trembling, claiming she wanted peace. But the more she spoke, the less believable it sounded. Every pause, every shaky inhale, felt like a lie trying to wear sincerity. And then, she deleted everything. The video? Gone. The TikTok account? Deleted overnight. Vanished without a trace. But you already know how the internet works. You cannot delete the truth. Screenshots were saved. The video was downloaded. Every frame preserved. Within hours, re-uploads began circulating under hashtags like #JusticeForKada and #WhereIsGabby. The digital world had declared war. Online investigators started tearing the footage apart like a crime scene, zooming in, frame by frame. At the 2-minute mark, someone spotted a shadow moving behind Gabby. Another claimed they heard a man whisper in the background. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. Was that Kian in the room? Is Gabby hiding something? Was this a cover-up all along? Some believed Gabby was threatened. Others believed she was part of it. And few believed she knew everything but chose silence over truth. What made it worse was her tone, not terrified, not heartbroken, but defensive. People online said it sounded too prepared, like she had gone over it again and again before pressing record. One comment said it best, "You can delete your account, but you can't delete guilt." By then, this was no longer just a local story, it was a national obsession. Every YouTuber, every podcast, every true crime TikTok creator had their own theory. Threads stretched into hundreds of comments, people dissected timestamps, background noises, body language. And the deeper people dug, the more disturbing it became. Because if Gabby really did not know anything, then why disappear? Why delete her digital footprint right after the video went live? And what did she mean when she said, "I still think about that call sometimes, wondering if I should have done more"? Was that regret? Or confession? Either way, one thing is clear, that 29-second call was not as innocent as she made it sound. It was a moment that connected 3 lives, Kada, King, and Gabby, a triangle of secrets, silence, and suspicion. And maybe, just maybe, that short conversation was the key to everything that followed. People say hindsight is 20/20, but that is a lie. It is not clarity, it is torment. It is like being trapped in a movie you cannot pause, forced to rewatch the same moments over and over, noticing new horrors every time. The tone in his voice. The breath between words. The way he ended the call, too quick, too calm, too cold. And maybe I did not want to see it then. Maybe I chose not to. Because where I come from, snitching is not just shameful, it is forbidden. In our world, silence is survival. You keep quiet, you keep breathing. But nobody ever tells you that silence can kill, too. When Gabby's deleted video resurfaced in Reddit threads, the internet went into forensic mode. People started lining up timestamps from her statements against official police documents, and the math was not matching. She said she had not spoken to King in weeks, but metadata from her own video proved otherwise. Screenshots surfaced, showing her replying to his posts just days before Kada vanished. Then came the texts. Screenshots that allegedly showed Gabby asking someone, did they find Kada yet? Before the public even knew Kada was missing. Nobody could prove the images were real, but in the world of social media, truth and rumor look identical. Once a story takes off, it becomes unstoppable. TikTok became a war zone. On one side, people cried, she's innocent, just scared. On the other, they screamed, she's lying, and she knows it. And then, the theories started. People claimed Gabby and King were more than friends, that Kada might have discovered something she was never meant to see. Old photos began circulating, blurry nightclub shots where Gabby and Kada appeared in the same room, standing only a few feet apart. Real or fake did not matter anymore. The internet had already written its script, and Gabby was cast as the villain. Meanwhile, the police stayed quiet. No updates. No statements. Nothing but shadows and screenshots. In that silence, the public filled in their own truths. Some said investigators already knew everything but were waiting for evidence. Others whispered about cover-ups and corruption. And through all of it, one thing kept gnawing at me, guilt. Because maybe I was not innocent either. Maybe my 29-second call was more than nothing. Maybe it was the spark that lit the fuse. I told myself I could not have known, that a short call was not evidence, just gossip. But deep down, I knew that fear had tied my tongue. Fear of being dragged into something I could not escape. Fear of what I might find if I dug too deep. Because sometimes, the truth is uglier than the lie, and once you see it, you can never look away. Weeks passed, and then came the leaks. Clips of Gabby's deleted TikTok live sessions began surfacing, her crying on camera, saying she could not sleep because she saw something she could not unsee. That one line, something she couldn't unsee, became the heartbeat of 1,000 conspiracy videos. People clipped it, slowed it down, remixed it with eerie music. Hashtags exploded, hashtag she knows the truth, hashtag justice for Kada, hashtag where is Gabby. Every day, a new version of the truth was born, twisted, stretched, edited, until nobody knew what to believe anymore. And yet, one thing stayed constant, the guilt in her eyes. Whether real or imagined, people felt it. They saw it. And they judged her for it. But then, the spotlight shifted again, toward me. Why did I not report that call sooner? Why did I not tell the cops everything? Why did I stay silent? And I had no answer. Because what could I say? He asked me if I knew her? That was not proof. That was small talk, until it was not. I told myself it did not matter because he had already turned himself in. But maybe, deep down, I was scared, not of him, but of what the truth would make me. Because once you speak it, you can never go back. By the time the mainstream media caught up, the internet had already built its own courtroom. News anchors twisted Gabby's words. Influencers posted psychological breakdowns of her facial expressions. Every thumbnail screamed guilty in bold red letters. It was chaos. Candlelight vigils turned into digital lynch mobs. Hope turned into hashtags. And through it all, the one question that mattered most, where was Kada, faded into the noise. As days turned into weeks, hope began to rot into acceptance. People stopped saying missing and started saying gone. Gabby's silence became her confession. And my own became my curse. Every night, I replay that call, those 29 seconds, over and over, wishing I had said something different. Wishing I had recognized the danger in his voice. Wishing silence did not come so easily. Even now, walking down the block, I can feel the whispers following me. Some blame Gabby. Some blame King. And a few, the ones who know me, blame me too. Maybe they are all right. Maybe we all failed Kada, in silence, in fear, in pretending it was not our business. But once something like this happens, it becomes everyone's business. Because monsters do not thrive in darkness, they thrive in silence. And that is the part nobody wants to admit. So when I pray now, it is not just for Kada. It is for all of us. For the families broken by truth, for the friends haunted by what they did not say, for the guilt that never leaves. Because the real tragedy is not only what happened to Kada Scott, it is what happened to everyone left behind, replaying the same call, the same moment, over and over, wishing we had spoken before it was too late. And let's not forget, the internet has a long memory. Now people are saying that the mysterious tip which led investigators to Kada's remains might have come from Gabby herself. Think about that for a second. The same Gabby who is deleting comments, rewriting her story, and acting like she had no idea what was going on. If that tip really came from her, what does that mean? Guilt? Fear? Or an attempt to save herself before the fire reached her door? The thing about the internet is, it does not forgive, and it never forgets. Screenshots outlive apologies. Deleted posts resurrect like ghosts. Once you speak online, your words stop belonging to you, they become evidence, dissected by millions of digital eyes. Every "I did not know," every "I was just trying to help," is now frozen in time, analyzed and replayed frame by strangers who have turned curiosity into obsession. This case is no longer just about King and what he did, it's about everyone who may have helped him, intentionally or not. And let's be honest, something about Gabby's story never sat right. Why would someone who supposedly barely knew Kada tell King that she lived right behind her? That was not small talk. That was precision. She gave him enough detail to find Kada even with his eyes closed. That is not coincidence, that is calculation. And people online caught it instantly. If she truly did not know Kada, the conversation would have ended the moment King asked. She could have said, "I don't know her," and moved on. But she didn't. She gave him directions. She gave him context. She even mentioned growing up with Kada's little sister. That is not distance, that is familiarity disguised as detachment. And then comes the question that refuses to die: if you grew up with her sister, why didn't you warn her? Why didn't you say, "Hey, someone's asking about your family, be careful"? That's what any decent person would have done. But Gabby didn't. She stayed silent, watched the storm build, and when it finally hit, she acted shocked, as if she hadn't felt the thunder long before it struck. Now, new whispers are surfacing, claims that Kada's phone pinged near a house where Gabby was also located, maybe even at the same time. If that's true, everything changes. Because digital footprints do not lie. They do not get nervous. They do not delete themselves. They sit quietly in the background, waiting for the moment truth needs a witness. If phone data connects them in the same place, then Gabby's "I knew nothing" narrative collapses like a house of cards. Investigators love contradictions, because contradictions reveal what words try to hide. And right now, Gabby's contradictions are glowing red. That's why the internet is demanding action. People are calling for police to re-question everyone, especially Gabby. Because at this point, the pattern is impossible to ignore. Every step she took seems to sync perfectly with the timeline of the crime. That's not paranoia. That's logic. Coincidence can only stretch so far before it starts to look like complicity. And maybe she thought people would not look too closely. But she underestimated the world she lives in now. The internet has evolved into a